Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks. Today, I am your host, Lori LeBay, and the founder of Alzheimer Speaks. And we got started because my mom had dementia for 30 years. My guest today is Trevor Mumby, and I will be introducing him here shortly. But because we always get new listeners, I like to just tell people a little bit about us so that you have a feel for who we are and what we do and why we're doing it. Bottom line, Alzheimer Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort around the world. We truly believe that having these authentic conversations is really the only way we're going to shift our dementia care, is to learn from one another and share with one another what is happening and how we're doing it. We also are known as a media outlet for companies who want to expand their brand and step into our footprint that we've created here to help people with their services, products, and tools getting out. And then, of course, our audience is critical. Our community is absolutely fantastic. And I can honestly say you are the ones that have kept me in this space, because there's been days I've wanted to walk away, just like you have with your work. And it's through this sense of community that's really fueled me to kind of keep my fight going and keep this disruption of our dementia care moving forward. And so I want to thank all of you. Because of our community, we have been recognized by 3 huge names. And again, we share that with you because we surely didn't do it alone. We don't even have a marketing budget per se. Oprah Winfrey recognized us in 2018 as a health hero, one of 14 people she picked. So just a huge, huge honor. In 2016, Maria Shriver recognized us as an architect of change for humanity. And then in 2012, Dr. Oz named us the #1 influencer online for Alzheimer's. And again, that's not us. That is all of us working together. And that's the brilliance, I think, of collaboration and authenticity, is just people sharing and really coming together to improve for the greater good. So thank you so much. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of organizations. One is Maria Shriver's Women's Alzheimer's Movement. She has an event annually called Move for the Minds that's coming up in June. She's going to be in several different cities, but they do exercise. They have a panel and sponsors, and it's very educational, very fun. So check that out. Go to the Women's Alzheimer's Movement.org. Another one that I want to give a shout out to is the Memory Cafe Directory. And that is for the U.S. MemoryCafeDirectory.com is supported by Calendar Cards, which is a memory system. And they do this for free. So if you have a memory cafe, you can get entered into it for free. If you are looking for one, again, just to see if there's one in your area, go to MemoryCafeDirectory.com. If you're looking for one outside the U.S., feel free to go to my website, AlzheimerSpeaks.com. Go to our projects and initiatives page, and there you'll see a tab for memory and Alzheimer's cafes, and it will list the directory for the Europeans as well over there. So let's get talking with Trevor. I am so excited to have this man on the show. We tried years ago to do this, and it just didn't work, and 2018 is our lucky year to have him with us. Trevor, just as a little background for you, Trevor's first experience in dealing with Alzheimer's came through visiting a farmer in a nursing home on a regular basis about 60 years ago. And that experience set him off on a lifetime of learning and caring for all forms of mental illness. And he now owns an organization called Mumby's Home Care Support, where he employs 90 carers, and in the U.S. that means caregiver, care companion, care partner, who actually live in with their clients. All of his staff are expected to live with different types of elderly conditions so that they get well-rounded. yet they tend to really specialize in dementia clients. Trevor and his wife, Ann, have been doing this work for the past 25 years. So he gets it, he understands it. And he and Ann have a training program which includes teaching people behavioral skills that are needed to make life easier for their very special clients. And more importantly, their relatives as well, because all of this stuff is transferable and it affects all of us. So, like I said, I am so honored to have him with us today because his books are fabulous. You're going to just adore his personality. So, welcome, Trevor. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks very much for inviting.
Well, I appreciate you being here. Trevor's over in the UK, and I'm in the US, so we had to figure out the old schedule business there for a while. So again, really appreciate you being with us. One of the questions I always ask everybody, though, before we kind of dive into you specifically is, have you been touched personally by dementia with family or friends?
No, I haven't.
That is amazing. That is very rare, and I thank you for your honesty. But you're making up for that one in spades with the work that you're doing. Oh heck! Can you explain to our audience what brought you in? What drew you into this field? I know in my intro I mentioned that you had done a lot of visiting with a farmer in a nursing home, but something there had to have just sparked your interest to say, I need to know more. I got to make a difference.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's fascinating that question should come up now, this last couple of weeks, because I've had to answer it for a research project that we're doing in Australia. And the answer to it was visiting this place was actually, the problem was watching the staff and the patients interact with each other and recognizing there was no real understanding going on, that I was witnessing, I thought was bullying, ignoring, really treating people quite badly. I thought that really hurt me. And I thought, well, that's not good. I still feel that today. That's been with me all my life. I think people who are experiencing emotional problems deserve a really cool approach. They deserve an intelligent, informed, loving approach. And that first experience, when I was only 20 at the time, hurt me. It did. And I know it's still with me. I hate it when I see especially elderly people with dementia being ill-treated in ways which are so easy to avoid. You think, well, why are they doing these things to their own loved ones or to their clients? So that's what it's about. It's trying to help people avoid hurting each other, especially if they've got demented or elderly people who are just going through a dementia stage. That's what it's about for me.
Well, I love that you felt that pain and that it moved you to make a difference, because I truly think it's one of those, you can't get through the pain if you don't move, if you don't take action to move through it. And you think of the pain you felt and you were observing, versus the person with dementia, how, or an elderly person as a whole, how are they feeling, being around that 24/7.
Yeah.
It's a huge impact. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of us just will push to the side, and it's like, well, once I leave, I don't have to look at that. It's not my business. I can't make change. It's up to somebody else. But you said, I can make a difference. I can. Yeah. And I think that that's an important statement for everyone to really take into play, that we all have the power of one to improve not only our lives, but others.
Yeah. So, and I think the other thing that we were talking earlier, and I think the other thing that strikes me about you, and we have it in common, is that it is up to us individually to make the change.
Yeah.
If we let it happen, they teach us how to improve our way of life.
Yeah.
it's the reciprocal nature of the deal you've got with people that makes it really valuable, makes it really important.
Yeah.
So I get much more out of working with people with dementia and elderly people. I get much more than they get out of me, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same way. What Trevor's referring to is prior to this recording, we were talking, and I made the comment. My mom had dementia for 30 years, and that her disease, I feel, is the biggest gift I'll ever receive in my life. She taught me so many things, but you have to slow down and pay attention, and you have to be willing to learn. And I think so many times we put up this barrier that says, I know it all. You're losing your skill set. So I'm right, you're wrong. And then the learning gets turned off, the creativity, the connections, all of that, where when you are always approaching life with a learning mode, you will learn. And it's amazing the lessons that you'll learn. And we're going to hear about some of those lessons from Trevor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Trevor, I want to talk a little bit about your business and what differentiates your services from others like yours in a live-in service and in home health care in general.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question. I think probably the thing that really matters is that all our staff, and that means headquarters staff, as well as the field staff, are very much aware of the behavioural impact they have on their clients. They're very much aware of that. And I go round to them, visiting in their homes, talking to them over cups of coffee. If they're having trouble with their elderly people, I'm there helping them. And our own head office staff are doing the same. So I think I wouldn't say we're any real difference from other organisations, except I think our expertise in dementia care has been sharpened. I think it's probably a lot sharper than a lot of other organisations, although I'm not criticising. I think other organisations are doing great jobs as well. We happen to be that bit sharper, I think. We know, I've written a lot about it. I trained as a psychoanalyst, so I do know what behavioural implications there are and can handle them, I think. So our staff, I would say, have got a little more edge on skill than the average organisation.
Okay. You're so humble. You kill me.
I don't want to compete with anybody. I want us all to be in this together. We're all learning, and it's as you say, it's about sharing and making make it easier for us all.
Yep. And well, and I don't know about over there, but here in the U.S., we are having a really hard time staffing. Finding people to enter this industry, and so the more we can feel more connected and humanize it. And have that sense of engagement, I think the more likely people are to join your organization or anyone's organizations, and more importantly, stay with it instead of just hopping around.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that we're finding is because our staff are learning themselves, they are learning how they can improve themselves, how they can become better communicators and better supporters and better carers through the books, through studying, through our training. They're getting a lot out of life for themselves out of this business, and I think that's a big issue. A lot of organisations don't give back what the staff deserve, and I think that's important. Your staff need to feel enriched through the work they're doing. And that does happen. They'll tell me, they'll ring me and say, Trevor, it's amazing. I've got David to move. He's different now. He's not as aggressive as he was. There's a lot happening, particularly with relatives as well. I think it's relatives who suffer a great deal.
Yeah.
And our staff, we really encourage staff to think about the relatives and how they can improve, how they can change their attitude towards their own dads and mums. That's what it's a family thing, really, looking after the elderly people. It's not just a carer and an elderly person. It's a network. It's how do you get a network to respond in a positive, well-being sense? Mm-hmm. That's the question. Yeah. That's what we're doing.
One of the things I call what you're doing is getting your staff to feel like they are family by choice.
Absolutely.
They're not replacing, but they're an extension of the family, and I think when that mindset is there, it switches from just being a task-oriented job.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're also, from what you're telling me, is you're allowing them responsibility with authority. So now they've got buy-in. They can make a difference, and you're appreciating them for making that difference. And that is very huge. Now, Trevor, you have written a few books, and the first one I'd like to talk about is Conducting Well-Being with Dementia in the Family.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this? I believe in this book you have 12 kind of everyday mannerisms.
Yeah, that's right.
And can you tell people about your mannerisms and how you feel that they can really be an igniter for explosions and really trigger people into what we term behaviors, which are really just reactions because we're behaving bad to start with.
That's the thing. I as I say, I've been doing this, working with behavior and the behavior problems for over 60 years, and I've worked in a whole range of organizations as well as private practice. I've worked in multinational corporations, so I've seen behavior as almost an unbelievable stretch from the top of a corporate of an organization to an old man in a farmhouse. That's the spectrum. And what I've seen, it's got clearly now these 12 things in the book, and that's what I'm talking about. And the things that we all see, like how often do we interrupt each other? And I think, let me go back before. If you look at dementia as a problem for elderly people, or just look at elderly people losing their sense of well-being, beginning to feel as though they might be going insane, they might be going crazy. They don't know, but they feel it. It's a fear that they have. They're walking on thin ice. It's almost, am I going crazy? Excuse my language. That's the bottom line. The elderly people begin to feel they're losing it. They begin to feel they're losing it. Now, we coming at them, as you said earlier, we do get into this feeling that we know better than they do. This is a grave mistake. So what I saw was the things that we transmit to the elderly people, we interrupt them when they're trying to say something. We contradict them. It's common, absolutely common, right? I'm going to say, just get this because it's important. I get it out of the things that really, really affect the relationship are interrupting people, contradicting. If I talk too much, I'll get over the top with it. The common things are undermining. We don't realize how much we undermine the other person. Pessimism is another thing. We inflict our own sense of pessimism onto the other person. So you go visit your dad and say, "Hi, Dad." Before you know it, within 10 minutes, your dad feels worse than he was when you got there. Because you laid your stuff on him. Okay? So there's that. And there's ignoring is another one. If we don't recognize that elderly people need more attention than we assume. We might need attention, but their need for attention is much greater than ours. And we ignore that. We tend to ignore that. We control them. We say, "Oh, I'll do that for you, Dad," or "Leave that to me, Mum." So we're controlling them. That's another one. We're always asking the questions like, "Would you like some tea, Mum? Shall I get you a new dress, Mum? Or shall we go out to the shop? Or shall we go for a walk?" You're asking them questions all the time. Don't do it. It drives them potty.
Well, and I think a lot of times people do that because they don't know what to do and they just want to be busy. So if they're busy, then they don't have to concentrate on anything and they feel like they're doing something.
That is the big mistake. You think you got to do something.
Yeah.
What actually our staff are told, the best form of care is this. You're watching.
Mm-hmm.
That. Bottom your mouth. Keep your mouth shut. Do that. You send your loving vibes across. You look at them. You smile at them. You touch them. You let them know that you love them.
Mm-hmm.
That's That's where it starts. And then they'll come back to you. They start saying, oh, he likes me. She likes me. I'm all right. I'm happy. Oh, good. And then you start. And the dialogue begins. If you go in there telling them what to do, what should do, what shouldn't do, you're shutting them down. You're just shutting them down. You just bang, they shut them. They'll tell you to F off or they'll not talk to you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So these 12 mannerisms, once the staff get a grip of them, you can see within a week, 2 weeks, a massive transformation in the dialogue between them. Family, the daughters, the sons, the uncle, they'll come and visit. What have you done to David? What have you done to Mum? Mum's a different woman. That's what we see. We see that all the time. And it's very, very profound. So they're the 12 manners. We're trying to let our staff feel, benefit themselves. And what I say in the book, just choose one that let's say you interrupt a lot. You're an interrupter. Well, stop interrupting for one day with one client. Don't interrupt one client for one day. See the difference. See the difference. You'll notice the following day, they will be more receptive to you. Oh, hello. Instead of, oh, it's you. It's, oh, hello. That's the difference. And all of the 12 have that effect. Gradually, things like they won't take their pills. Excuse my voice. And you'll say, have you taken your pills? Have you taken? That's the nursing attitude. I'm sure his underpants are clean, all that stuff. That's the wrong way around. The other way around is, oh, I've changed my underpants today, nurse. Oh, I changed them myself. Or I've taken my pills. They are relating back to you what they're doing. Because you're not undermining them. You're not undermining them. You're not interrupting. You're not contradicting. You're letting them be. And you're expressing your love for them. And it just changes the dynamic completely.
Well, so you're preserving their independence, which allows them to assert themselves versus being told in all of these different ways that they're not able to. You're enabling. So what I would what I call your 12 things that you've identified here is I categorize it as consciously caring. And it's amazing when we are aware of what we're actually doing, because none of us like to be around someone who's opinionated and don't let us get a word in edgewise. Nobody likes to be interrupted. Nobody wants to be provoked. Nobody wants to be contradicted. No one wants someone yelling at them and talking loudly or undermining who they are, what they're doing, or being pessimistic or ignoring us or controlling us or being pelted by all those questions. All of those things apply to everyone. And that's, I think, one of the biggest lessons I learned about dementia is what's good for dementia is good for everybody.
Absolutely.
And
that's why the second book came out, Laura. The second book was Stop Throwing Hand Grenades, and that was for normal people, for every day. And it's the same as you say. It's exactly that. It's as you said, conscious caring. It's being more sophisticated. It's being aware that what you are hurts other people, especially if the other person is fragile.
Yeah.
Even being a nice person can be harmful. Sometimes. You want to care for the person. Hello, nice to see you. And you start asking questions. You start imposing your being on them, and they just back off. And that's even when you're trying. So it's my staff. If I have any problems with any of our staff, I'll go and see them in the house. I'll go sit with them and say, what are you doing? And within minutes, I can see that the staff member is actually doing something like, I've got here, like irritating or provoking. They don't know they're doing it, but they are.
Yeah.
Even by the way they dress sometimes, even by the expressions on their face, even the sound of the voice. Those things that we take for granted are harmful and hurt people who are suffering with dementia.
Yeah.
Actually puts them down, makes them feel worse. And I can tell within minutes of being in a house, and so can you, I know. Mm-hmm. You can see the dynamic between the carer and the client. That's where it all happens. And if you get that right, you are creating well-being. You're giving that person a sense of, oh, I am okay. I can think for myself. I can do things. I'm not completely bonkers, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I like that you mentioned was that even when someone means well, and they might be saying the right words, but it's our tone of voice and it's the pace. They might not be able to keep up with our pace. And so now that turns into an irritation because they can't process it, or, they feel like they're being patronized. And because people they have this sometimes, I think, nervous energy, and they think that they have to do it different. And it's like, no, they're just a normal human being. Relax, be in the moment. One of my favorite things to do with my mom was, and not initially, because I was, like I told you earlier, I was the checklist queen. I needed to be doing something. I needed to be fixing something. And, a lot of this isn't fixable, and so stop having that approach and make it livable. Make it livable for both of you. Because when you're stressed and feeling out of control, they read all of that stuff. Their nonverbal skills, I believe this, and I don't know if you do, but I believe their nonverbal skills heighten. And they
absolutely
much, much more in, and they rely on that. We're still like, we're just running around doing our stuff and wanting someone to say a full sentence to us, and, because that's our comfort. But if we slow down, we're real good at picking up their nonverbals and saying it's a problem. And that's, like you said, sometimes it's just be quiet.
That's it. Yeah.
Be quiet. And we're the problem. We're bringing the problem into the room. They were totally content before we walked in. But we don't like to take the blame. But if we can get out of that blame shame game and just say, I could do this better. I could do this different. Yeah. And we both feel more comfortable.
Not only that, but if you do it, you feel better as well.
Exactly.
It's not you're not doing it because you're a good carer. You're doing it because I feel really great when I can make a good connection with someone who's elderly and confused and demented. It makes me feel great, and that's why we can keep people who want to get into caring, if they look at it from a point of view of, I am going to feel a lot better for doing this. Not only, spiritually and emotionally, my self-awareness, self-worth all gets better as well as being paid. I'm actually getting money as well, which is a great benefit. I'm getting money and I'm feeling better. I love my job. I love visiting people. I love staying in a house for 24 hours. It's lovely. I enjoy it. That is why we can get people working. If we show the elderly care as a hard, painless, thankless job, we'll never get people in. They'll never work for us.
Yeah.
I'll wrap it here. But I think one of the other things I've found in this country particularly, there are more people outside who have not had what we've had in the West, who benefit, who enjoy giving. They actually enjoy giving. They like looking after the elderly. And to get paid a lot of money and to do what they love doing is a great benefit. We've got most of our staff are from outside the UK. The Western society, as we know it, is much more, instant reaction, instant need, satisfaction, instant gratification. I want it now. that mentality doesn't wash in looking after the elderly. It doesn't wash.
And I think in some ways it could, but it would have to really be transcended, because I think there is a lot of gratification that can be that can happen, but you have to be looking for the right things.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have not taught people to look for the right things. We haven't taught people that they even exist, that it's possible. And so just like we sometimes when we're caring for somebody, we take away their feeling of independence and importance and pride without really, I mean, most people I don't think try to do that. They really think they're being helpful, but it happens in these subtle ways, in these kind of, 12 grades that you have, that you've mentioned, these mannerisms. And then, but the same thing can happen to the care partner as well, because of what they're being told and how they're being treated. So it's this funnel down belief, that can be amazing when everyone works together and really just says, one of the tools I've developed, Trevor, it's just called your memory chip. And it's about getting people to switch from being task oriented and focusing on three simple things. Are they safe? Are they happy? And are they pain free? And when those are our priorities, I think it's easier to pick up like on these mannerisms, because our goal now is different. It's not about getting something done. It's not about fixing something. And not that people don't have to take pills at certain times, and there's that. But if that's all we focus on, we're disrupting that comfort and that serenity. And I think the other thing we take away too, and my audience has heard me say this a zillion times, there's a man in the U.S. here by the name of Harry Urban, and he has been living with dementia for 12 years. And one of my favorite sayings of Harry is that we were talking about how people care for him, and he says, the one thing I would really like people to understand is I liked to relax before I got dementia. I still do. You do not have to keep me busy. You do not have to be yapping and filling air all the time. Take peace in my peace. And I think it sounds like that's something that you do beautifully to get your staff to understand. And it's such a basic thing. But I know here in the U.S., silence is very uncomfortable for most people. And it's like, oh, we got to do something. Oh, and it's just,
That's right.
And it's so funny because it's so simple. It costs no money. And it can bring both sides peace. I mean, it can transcend through a whole room.
That's right.
And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I relate it to, going to visit my mom. One of my favorite things to do was just sit with her and be in her presence.
Yes.
She was my security blanket and I was hers.
Yes.
And we didn't have to say anything, but getting people to understand how many times do you want to just be in someone's presence and nothing has to be done.
Absolutely.
But, and I think when we get people again to consciously think about that, then it's like, oh, that does make sense.
Oh, it's nice. I like this.
Yeah. So it's kind of getting people off the ledge of always having to be driven, and doing.
Yeah.
And yet that's hard because, businesses are, are regulated and certain, standards are met, and, companies don't want to get red flagged and, on a survey and things. But part of it is, I think, even in our documentation of stuff, if it's to family or if it's to the state or to our organization, if we don't proactively start documenting moments of joy, which is really what we should be there for.
Yeah, exactly.
In safety, instead of, somebody stole Sally's sweater, or, she's got a bruise here. And all those things are important. But if we're only always talking about problems, problems are all we're going to find. That's what we're looking for.
You can positively cause them.
Exactly. And that just raises everybody's stress level. But if we start sharing moments of joy, if we start appreciating moments of joy, it shifts everything in the lessons that we learn. And I love how you mentioned, you feel like you get so much more than you receive, in this. And I feel the same way, it's just, but you have to allow yourself to be in that space.
Yeah,
you have to believe that it's possible. So, like you said, just test it for a day. Just see what happens.
On anybody. You don't have to just test it on your wife or test it on your girlfriend. Just test any one of them on one person. Say, I got literally hundreds of cases, where I've said to her, marriage work, family work, and work with families. So just all I want you to do is not contradict for one day.
Yeah.
Transformation almost overnight. I had no idea I was doing that. I had no idea I was making Dad feel so bad. Well, you know yourself. You talk to a wife who is doing her very, very best, but never stops nagging, questioning, interrupting, controlling, all these things. You stop her in her tracks and say, and I'll tell you, just hold her hand and say, I want you to do something for me. I want you not to contradict for one day. Please, will you do that for me? Okay. Do I contradict? Not much, but a little bit. You do a little bit. Okay. Instant change. Not her, in her family and in the husband who's a sufferer.
Yeah.
So once they get the catch, there's a catch. Do it. Just one. Do it. Just one. One person. It moves. It moves in that dynamic. That's what's so exciting.
And don't you think it's about leading by example too? Because then when people see that transformation, they're like, oh, I could do that too. I didn't know I was doing it. Because then you start having, and it's not about the shame or blame, and people feel better and go, gosh, I just did this and I can't believe the impact. It gets other people thinking about making that change. And so, if you can take that edge off between the two of you, even if it doesn't happen very often, just that little snippet, that little snap, and you multiply that. It's amazing.
It's astonishing. In the last book I've just finished, one of the things I've raised is the notion of a chain reaction. Because exactly what you're saying. If you get a group of staff together, which we do for training purposes, and I trained as a group analyst as well in London, when you start getting the staff to not interrupt when they're in a group training program, and you let them see that they're not doing things like they're not contradicting, the chain reaction, as your point is, that they all realize how much they are doing it, and they all learn to observe how other people are doing it. So they then begin to say, if I don't interrupt there, we'll have a conversation. So and that's the powerful. I think that's the powerful message for this thing. It's a chain reaction. It happens, and as you say, get a group of people together. You do it when you've got one of your public groups together. Sit down and say, we're going to take 20 minutes. You sit on the outside, the group sits on the outside, the group on the inside. The people on the outside has to observe the people on the inside and let them talk for 20 minutes. Like a normal care day, say. Watch what happens. When the outsiders, with this book, that one you've got there, watch what happens when the outsiders see the insiders using all this stuff. You can see it in their face. My God, she won't let him get a word in anyway. And you can see it happening.
Yeah.
Once you see it happening, and then you turn the group round, you put the outsiders on the inside, and the inside on the outside. They do it to each other. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. Try it. You love it.
No, the book you just held up was this one here, which is Coaching for Carers, A Fresh Look at Dementia Care. And again, this has the 12 everyday habits and beliefs and mannerisms which impact dementia. And this is just, it's very, it's very thin, it's simple, but it's profound.
It is. Yeah,
it really is profound. And one of the things that I love so much about your work, Trevor, and why I feel like it's so aligned with what I do is it's about simplicity. None of this stuff has to be complicated and difficult. It really is all very simple stuff if we just slow down and take it in. And again, what all of what your teachings are good for everybody. If we're dealing with our kids or our friends or our lover or whoever it is, doesn't make any difference. The grocery clerk, in terms of, or the banker who we're interacting with.
In a supermarket queue, trying the supermarket queue. Let me give you a funny trick. Standing in a supermarket queue, introduce a pessimistic remark like, oh, God, it's terrible weather today. The whole of the queue will join in. If you said, wow, I'm having a lovely day today, they'll look at you as there's something wrong with you. Pessimism is contagious, isn't it? And if you can see it working, you can stop it from happening. If you walk into a nursing home, you'll see it every time you walk in. There's pessimism. Somebody might be bright, but there's a lot of grim faces, long faces. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Change it. Be directly opposite to pessimistic. It's amazing. Changes. You know as I do. They're the simple things, you see. They're simple, aren't they?
Yeah. Be the change. Be the change you want to see. And think about you could be that person next who needs to be served. And how do you want to be served? If we don't change this now, we're going to be served in a less than fashion than we want.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and I think, our world is at a point right now where we're like at this tipping point. We're seeing so much change and people saying, I don't want to be treated like this in this area or that area or whatever it is. Be the change. Make a difference. Go buy Trevor's books and look at these simple remedies for really difficult situations that can be changed. I mean, everything you're doing in the way you present it is really about culture change. It's about getting us to believe that it can be different. And the old ways aren't working, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and it can be done in a really fun, almost challenging way amongst staff to be able to find the results, to be able to, share their stories, because, storytelling, I think, ignites us and pulls us in. And then all of what you're doing and what you're explaining is, again, what I call emotional-based training. It's about getting people not just to memorize and get the logistics of stuff, but it's about to feel the impact, feel the change.
Yeah, that's the right.
And that's the thing that keeps us replicating it and sharing it, and it's like you said, it's explosive. It's wonderful. Now you also have another book that you are working on that's at the printer. Your Euphoria Made Easy. What's that book about?
Well, I'm glad you asked this question, because it's if you can take the mannerisms as a procedure you can use in everyday life, fine. The next thing I've understood now.
Trevor, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. If you can pull back so we can, because a lot of people with dementia watch these, and they need to see your face and be able to read your lips. So,
well, this one, Euphoria Made Easy, is based on my hundreds of experiences with elderly people, where when you, and this is very, very important because the distinction is critical, when you touch the person at a feelings level, not memory, not feelings, you will find that there is a spontaneous, involuntary reaction. So if a good example, and I've got dozens, example, man comes to me and says, my mum hasn't spoken to me for 3 months. I'm desperate. What am I going to do? Mum's lying in bed. She's 82. And she won't speak to him. I can see why. It's because he's bullying her. He doesn't know he's doing it, but he is. He's bullying her. So she shuts up. When he walks in the room, she shuts up. She won't speak. And that's common. That's not just one woman. It's common. Now, he said, can you come and see her for me? So I said, okay, I'll go. It's a long story. I'll cut it short. So I sat down at the bedside with her, and I touched her hand, and I smiled. And I loved her. I actually loved her. I didn't say I loved her. I loved her. Didn't say words. I loved her. And she smiled and she looked at me. And then she looked at me. Who are you? You know what I mean? Who are you? I said, I'm just come to say hi. And she had a Bible on the side of the bed. This is what I'm saying. This is the book. But I opened the Bible, and on the inside cover, it said, to Mary, who'd been top of the class in 1917. Right?
Wow.
She was about 7. I said, oh, look at this, you clever lady, you clever girl. She grabbed it out of my hand, and she burst into laughter. She turned over the page. She read texts from different parts of the Bible. Oh, and she told me about the girl she had in Sunday school with her and a teacher. She came completely out of her. Now, that principle, what I'm talking about, is the book. What we did there, what happened was she touched something that had been recorded in her, and this sounds really weird, but at a cellular level, right down inside, deep inside a memory, not just in the memory banks. Because what it did, it triggered off a completely physical, spontaneous, blissful experience. That's what it did. And I've done that hundreds of times, hundreds. What I'm saying is that if you can touch not only these 12 mannerisms, but if you can begin to see there are memories tucked away, not memories, feelings tucked away inside the people they know, places, possessions, and pastimes. Those 4 P's, it's in the book. If you can explore them, not necessarily directly, you see pictures on the wall of a place, a city, and you say, oh, they don't know it. I was in Salzburg last week, Mary. Were you? Yeah, I was in Salzburg. And the spontaneous thing comes again. I was there with my husband. And you're witnessing the re-enablement of a feeling. That's what I'm saying. That euphoria is right down inside us at the cellular level. It's not just here. It's all the way down. Yep. And if you touch it by people, pastimes, pleasures, pastimes, possessions, places, people, pastimes, and possessions. That's 4. Just explore them. Don't ask questions. Don't ask me. Just say, one of my favourite hobbies was fishing. I used to love. I used to go fishing. Yeah. You've got instantly. The next time you go in, you can stick it on the fridge. You can say fishing. Yeah. So everybody visits fishing. Take a magazine, take a fishing reel, anything. You've got them back into present time well-being. They're well-being. Good. They're good. And that can happen every time you go into the room. Every time. Yeah. One woman, she's telling me, she was a little girl, and her mum used to take her in the garden during the summer to help her prune the roses. She's about 90 now. She can't move. Favorite thing I say, I take a secateurs with me. The roses you cut roses. I take their hand, take it with my hand. So I've just been doing this. Oh, have you? Oh, and she'll come right back to when she was 8, 9 years old. Oh, we had some lovely times, my mum and I, and the neighbours used to come round and was, oh, a lovely flower. I can still smell them. And she's telling me, 70 years ago, reliving the realities of that moment. Now, that is what I think we're really doing a great job when we can get that working, when we can get that euphoria re-stimulated.
Yep.
Not through forming, not through going to their memory banks. That's not what we do. It's going to their feelings.
Yep.
You touch feelings, people they love, people when they were even before they were married, a long time. I remember I used to have a friend called Cynthia, and used to have a good conversation, and she might just have had a friend called Cynthia, because she had. Oh, did you? I had a friend called Cynthia. Oh, up it comes. Up it comes. So that's what I'm saying. That's the other point of the book. It's the two things. It's what I call this distinguished conversation, where you're distinguishing how you speak. You don't just rabbit. You use and re-stimulating those deep sense of well-being. And they're always spontaneous. Always. If they're not spontaneous, they're not real. They're memorized. They've got to be. That's how it happens.
Well, because they can differentiate if we're being authentic or not.
Absolutely.
Or if it's
the point you made earlier about their intuitive, that I think people with dementia are more highly intuitive than people who are blind and people who are deaf. I really do. I think they sense whether you're with them or not. They know. And they'll ignore you or they'll tell you to F off. They know. And that's where the skill and the excitement comes. With them, you not only can be with them, but you can get them to touch those beautiful moments in their lives. 60 years. And there's an endless number of places, endless number.
Well, it pops up in such different, it just pops up all over. I'll never forget a time my mom was at the nursing home, and they had this picnic, and they had corn on the cob. And I said, oh, Mom, do you want me, here I am disabling, do you want me to cut the corn off the cob? Because my mom has chipped and broken teeth. She looked at me like I was a Fruit Loop. Are you kidding? No, I don't need that cut off, And so I gave her the corn on the cob, and she picked that up and she sucked and she nibbled. And I remember watching her going, she is so peaceful. She is so happy. I mean, it just radiated from her. And it's like, I want what she's having, because she is, I don't know if she was at the state fair as a child. I don't know what it was, but the taste, the texture, it brought her to some other place. And she just had this huge smile on her face, and she was so peaceful, and she was enjoying that to no end. And here I was gonna let me just cut it all off. Let me just take all that fun away, that you're not gonna have the butter dripping down your hands. You're not gonna but that's half the fun of it all, if we let ourselves have the fun.
Yeah,
We turn into adults and we have all these rules and everything has to be neat and tidy and pretty, and that's not where the fun lies.
That's a beautiful, beautiful example of what I mean. That's a perfect example. And once you discovered that, you can use that corn on the cob episode every day if you want, or every other day. You shouldn't have to be eating. You just have to say, I'm going to get you a corn on the cob tomorrow. Oh, that'll be nice. And they're automatically up again. They're experiencing what they experienced when they first experienced that moment. It's the memorized moment of bliss that we have in here, stored in us. Bring it back again.
Yeah.
It works every time.
Yeah. I'm gonna share a story with you, because I think it'll align with what we're talking about. I call it As the Cookie Crumbles. And it's about that multi-sensory engagement, which I think is really important. And again, I think that as organizations and lawsuits in the states have arisen, people don't use all of their multi-senses to engage. Well, my mom was at this picnic. My daughter, who at the time was 18, was with her. and they were at the nursing home. They were coming around, the grills were wafting and it smelled great and they had music going. It was a beautiful sunny day and they kept coming around with food. And my mom normally loves to eat, and this day she wasn't eating. And I was bringing other residents out in their wheelchairs and stuff, and my daughter was with my mom, and there's probably 100 people out on this patio. But I can see something's kind of off with my daughter, and I'm seeing that my mom's not taking the food. Well, then all of a sudden she decides to take this cookie, and I'm watching my mom and my daughter, and they're having a good time and stuff. And then all of a sudden, as I'm rolling my last person out and putting the brakes on, my mom screams at the top of her lungs, "I hate you! Leave me alone! I hate you!" And she's screaming at my daughter. And my daughter is never, my daughter and my mom were like two peas in a pot. My daughter has only known my mom with dementia. She's never, ever seen her blow up like this. And then she did it in front of a crowd of 100, and everybody's looking at my daughter. My daughter's feeling totally shamed. And she runs over to me, and her lips are quivering, and she's got these crocodile tears streaming down her face. And she says, "Mom, she hates me. She hates me. And I didn't do anything wrong. She hates me, Mom. And she was just mortified and so sad." And I said, "Honey, what happened?" I said, "You guys look like you were having a good time." "Well, we were." I said, "You were?" I said, "Well, what happened?" And she said, "Well, we were talking and laughing and just having a good time." I'm like, "Were you holding hands?" "Oh, I always hold Grandma's hand." I said, "Did you have eye contact?" "Oh, well, of course I had eye contact with her." I said, "Well, what shift?" She said, "Well, she was eating this cookie and the cookie fell on her chest." And she said, "I just went in to pick up the cookie, Mom. That's all." And I said, "Honey, but what else changed?" "Nothing. I just picked up the cookie." I said, "Honey, we got to break this down." I said, "Were you still talking and laughing?" "Well, no, there was a break in the conversation, so I thought it would be, a good time to pick up the cookie." "Honey, were you still holding hands?" "Well, no, she's in that big Jerry wheelchair." And so I stood up, and no, I let go of her hand. I said, "Honey, you weren't talking and laughing. You weren't holding hands. Did you still have eye contact with Grandma?" "Well, no, I had to pick up the cookie." And I said, "Okay, so you're not talking and laughing, you're not holding hands, and you don't have eye contact." I said, "Those are 3 super strong connections." I said, "And then you reached in and you touched her in an inappropriate spot for a stranger." I said, "In that nanosecond of letting those 3 things go, you became a stranger to her. And you were touching her on her chest, and that was not appropriate." I said, "That's why Grandma blew up." We have to understand the power of our connections.
Absolutely.
And, I love like masseuses, if you get a good masseuse, they will tell you, I will always leave one hand on you not to break that connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you said, I think they become super sensitive to all of that because they are relying on that for their communication with us.
Absolutely.
And so we have to become much more sensitive, and then it makes perfect sense on how we could have done that differently.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a perfect example. Again, that's what I mean when I talk about ignoring, because you don't know you're doing it. You don't know you're doing it, and so that's and the other thing I'd like to say, because it's important, because it's quite frightening for someone who's trying to be a good carer. If they feel they need to develop that degree of attention. That's quite a scary challenge. That is to be that attentive. People have to recognize that this attention does not need to go on forever. It can be a very short spell, like 5 minutes. But if you lose it during that 5 minutes, you will create that reaction. Yeah. So I'm saying focus absolutely in every way you can, as you say, with eyes, touch. Be there. There. If you are being with yourself, you're being with the other person. You're being between you. Keep it there, but don't expect it to go on forever. It will only last for about maybe 5 minutes, less. But there will be a break. It will happen. But don't interrupt that being. And that's what I think your daughter, bless her, wouldn't have known until she had that lesson.
Yep.
That her being with her Nana was absolutely vital to Nana's well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Learned that, didn't she? She learned that.
Yeah, she definitely did. And, I don't know if you're familiar with Hurt Benninger over in the UK, who wrote this beautiful book his book is called Moving Ahead by Standing by Still.
Oh, I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah.
By Standing Still, yeah.
And it's a wonderful book. But anyways, he talks about behaviors. Stop calling them behaviors. Call them triggers or signs or signals, because they're here to teach us to care better. I have a equation that I use when I do my trainings and my talks, and it's getting people to understand that a person with dementia, I believe, and maybe you'll disagree with this, but I believe that we all use the same equation to react to things. It's our current attitude plus our past perceptions trigger our perceptions, and our perceptions then trigger our reactions. And when we don't like a reaction, we deem it a behavior because it doesn't fit in our box. Mm-hmm. And yet it is just a signal, and there's always a reason behind it. And so if we can understand, how much we like to be understood, maybe that'll make it easier for others to put on that investigative hat and say, oh, there's got to be a way to calm them down. There's got to be a better way, because there's a reason. I haven't figured it out yet.
That's right.
And a lot of times, like you said, we are the triggers and we don't even know it. Or we brought the attitude into the room thinking that we're hiding it and we're being a Stepford wife and we've got the smile on, but all the rest of us is emanating, I'm frustrated, I need to get going, or I'm impatient, or whatever. And they're picking up on that, and then they mirror it back to us, and then we say they're the problem. No.
You're right, yeah.
We're the problem. We're the problem.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, this has been just such a wonderful conversation, and I would really encourage people, again, to purchase your books and look for your new one that's coming out, the Euphoria one as well, and the hand grenades. What is the name of that one again?
That one.
Okay, yep. Stop throwing the hand grenades. That's and are those available like on Amazon, or do they go to your website to get those?
They can get. I think they're available on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to come directly to me, I'd be more than happy to send them. So
okay.
Just feel free. Yeah.
Okay. And do you want to go ahead and give people your website and spell that out for them as well?
Yeah. Well, it'll be www.mumbys.com.
Okay, and that's MUMBYS. Okay. Mumbys.com, and you're also open to receiving emails if anybody wants.
By all means, yeah, I'd be very happy to do that.
Okay, so if you're looking for a wonderful trainer, just go to trevor@mumbys.com, or if you want to order some books through him, and I'm sure he would autograph some things and sign and send them out.
Your pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I could talk to you way past a day for a whole week. I could just sit with you and just.
I'm hoping we'll meet one day.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah. I'm over in Vancouver next month. My daughter's in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
I was looking at the distance. It's a hell of a long way to where you are.
Yeah, I'm in Minnesota. Yeah, I wish I was out that way. But I'm not right now. So, but one of these days, maybe we'll make something happen. Okay.
It will.
Well, take care, and thank you again so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's time to rethink, renew, and reimagine retirement. Hey everybody, Jared Sebesti here, host of Retire Repurposed. Now, this podcast is about the non-financial parts of retirement, which many times can be even more challenging than the financial. We believe retirement is not the end, rather the beginning of what could be the most impactful, purposeful, and fulfilling season of a person's life. So don't retire, become repurposed. To listen now, search Retire Repurposed on your favorite podcast platform, Senior Resource, or Life Audio.